Welcome to the Nonsense Word Fluency Dibels tutorial. The purpose of the Nonsense Word Fluency is to indicate the ability for students to blend letters into words in which each of those letters represents their most common sounds. During this assessment, the words that the students are going to be presented with are not real words. And at no time should you be teaching them these words. It's not a sight word test or anything like that, because these are all make-believe nonsense words. You will start off giving the students these two words. You're going to start off with SIM as the first one, and then as we go through the warm-up exercises, LUT will be the second one. So we're going to start with the first one, and you're going to say to the students, look at this word, and you're going to point to the first word, which is the SIM one. You're going to say, it's a make-believe word. Watch me read the word one sound at a time, or the whole word together. S, m. As you say those sounds, you're going to point to each letter, and then you're going to also demonstrate to the student how they can read the whole word together. Sim. And it's funny because when this assessment was made, sim was not a real word, and now today it is. So it just goes to show you. When you do say the whole word together, you're going to run your finger quickly underneath the letters. So when you're saying just the sounds of each letter, you'll point to each letter, s, m. And when you'll point to each one, and then when you say the whole word, if you say the whole word, sim, then you would run your finger quickly under it. Once you've demonstrated that, it's now the student's turn to take a shot at all of this, and you're going to start by telling them, it's now your turn to read a make-believe word. Read this word the best you can, and you're going to point to the word LUT. You're going to say to the student, make sure you say any sounds you know. So in other words, if they only know some of the sounds, they're only going to say the sounds that they know. If they know them all, they'll say them all. If the student does it correctly, then you are going to say to the student, that's right. The sounds are l, t, or lut. So you can go either one. If the student gets it incorrect, you're going to say, remember, you can say the sounds or you can say the whole word. Watch me. The sounds are l, t. And as you say each one of those sounds, you'll point to each letter so they understand the sound-letter correspondence. Or lut. And when you say this, you'll run your finger fast through the word. Let's try again. Read this word the best you can, and you're going to point to lut. At this point, the student should either say lut, or they should say l, t. Once they've demonstrated that they understand, then you know you're ready to move on. So now you're going to actually begin the assessment, and you're going to start off by saying to the student, here are some more make-believe words. And you're going to point to the student probe, which I'm going to show you in a second. You're going to point to the first word, and you're going to say, start here. And you're going to go across the page, and you're going to point across the page, demonstrate which direction they're going to go. When I say begin, read the words the best you can. Point to each letter and tell me the sound, or read the whole word. Read the words the best you can. Put your finger on the first word. Ready? Begin. Now this is what you will see as the teacher, but the student sees the same thing, sees all the nonsense words in the columns. They don't see the blank line over here with the /14. They don't see the /15. They don't see any of this. They just simply see this section in here. So when you're demonstrating to them and you're telling them the first nonsense word, it's right here. And when you're directing which way to go, they're going to go straight across. Just as if they were reading, straight across, down to the next row, straight across. Once you've given them the start, the begin sound, when you tell them begin, you're going to hit your stopwatch. Every time a student gets a nonsense word or the sound within the word incorrect, you're going to put a slash through each letter sound that they got incorrect. And at the end of 1 minute, you're going to place a bracket after the last letter sound produced by the student and then say stop. So they might only get through half of a nonsense word. So you might have one of these brackets halfway through a word, or you might have it at the end of the word. Some basic rules are: discontinue if the student does not give the correct sounds on words, the first 5 words in the first row. If they don't get any of them correct, any sound at all within those 5 words, then you're going to record a 0 and you're going to stop the assessment. If they get at least 1 sound on that row, then you're going to continue for the full minute. You're going to basically score 1 point for each correct sound, and when they get a correct sound, you're going to underline that sound that the student produced, or if the student is opting to say the whole word, then for every sound that they get correct, or the whole word if they get it correct, you'll underline the whole word. You're going to put a slash through any letters that are not produced correctly, and once again, you're going to underline any correctly generated sounds. So anytime the student correctly says the sound, you're going to underline it. And each time they get it correct, you're going to give them a point. If a student repeats a sound, it's not going to be marked wrong, but they're not going to get extra credit either. So they can only gain 1 point for each sound. If the student hesitates for 3 seconds, score that sound as incorrect, and then say the correct sound. And then point to the next letter and say, what sound? The same would hold true for if the student is giving you whole words. You're going to score the entire word as incorrect. You're going to point to the next word, and you're going to say, what word? So depending on whether you're saying what sound or what word will depend upon how the student is approaching the assessment, if they're giving you by the sounds or by the word. You will mark something correct. In other words, you'll underline it for any sound that is produced correctly. But if it's in a different order but they're doing the right sounds, then you would mark them correct. If the whole word is said incorrectly, the credit will be given for any sounds within the word that were correct. So if the student is opting to say whole words, and let's say they get the first sound and the last sound wrong within that whole word that they're saying, but the middle sound is correct, then you would give them the credit for the middle sound. You'll also mark something correct if the student provides additional sounds in addition to the correctly said sounds. So in other words, the nonsense word is there, they say the entire word correctly, and they add on an extra sound. That's okay, you're still going to mark it correct. You're going to pretend like they didn't make that extra sound. You're also going to mark something correct if they have any kind of pronunciation errors, if it's due to articulation or dialect. You'll mark something as correct if a student is able to self-correct. So in other words, if they give the wrong sound and then you've already marked a slash through it, or even if you didn't do it fast enough, if you didn't mark a slash yet, if the student corrects themselves within 3 seconds, then you simply just write SC above it. You're going to ignore if a student skips a row. So if they skip the entire row, just simply cross out the row, and that row won't be counted in any of the scoring. So it's not that it's wrong, it's not that it's right, it's as if it doesn't exist. It's not counted in the scoring at all. And this concludes our nonsense word fluency Dibels assessment. Thank you.